So you believe in these kind of things?
Let's just say I want to believe.
Welcome back to the Most News in the Morning. All this week, we're bringing you a special series, In Search of Aliens. And today, we're talking to a man who says he has made contact and says he's actually been abducted by aliens more than once. Space correspondent Miles O'Brien is here. I don't mean to make fun, but come on.
Well, that's actually not unusual. A lot of abductees have had the experience more than one time. We're talking about close encounters of the fourth kind. That's when a human is abducted by an alien. Now, before you scoff, Carol,
I'm sorry,
and tune this out, these people we talk to are not crazy people. The majority of the people who say this has happened to them do not have symptoms of mental illness. They are ordinary people who swear they have endured a most extraordinary encounter.
I don't make the drawings.
You never know what surprise you might find when you open a drawer in this Manhattan studio. Artist Bud Hopkins is the keeper of some images that will expand, blow, or maybe even close your mind. There's a photo album devoted to odd, mysterious scars.
Almost like a hole punch.
Yeah, it's what it looks like, a biopsy.
Boy, if these walls could talk. There are stacks of drawings of little aliens called grays. You know, big head, tiny mouth, almond eyes. These aren't Bud's work. They come from his rather unusual assortment of friends.
Is that the same person?
No.
Different.
Different people.
Wow.
Now, the important thing about this is all of these are really old. This is before this face was on every T-shirt.
Bud has become the father confessor for hundreds of people who are convinced they have been abducted by aliens.
It sounds totally off the wall, and I'm the first one to say almost everything that we're discussing here sounds off the wall. But that doesn't mean it's not true.
Ladies and gentlemen, tray table up, seatbelts buckled. This will be a wild ride.
Do you have any idea how common these encounters are?
Well, my guess is that they're very common simply because I just keep running into so many cases.
In 1964, Bud saw a UFO, and then in 76 wrote an article in New York's Village Voice about an alleged alien encounter in New Jersey. His phone hasn't stopped ringing since.
The massive evidence gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and that's not a pleasant thought, to me. Mind you, I'm looking into something that I don't really like and that I don't really want to hear about. But I'm working with people who have suffered.
It's a little bit confusing to me.
People like Mark, who believes he's been abducted several times in his life. He came to Bud to fill in the blanks, the missing time, which happens to be the title of Bud's first book. He uses hypnosis. Here's a tape of his first session with Mark.
There's something small and white, but it's glowing. It's glowing so brightly that I can't even make out the figure. And I'm really scared. And then it starts to climb up on the bed of reach for me.
So, what do you think it was?
Well, I've spent many years trying to guess, trying to logically, rationally explain it, and I can't think of anything other than an encounter with beings of some sort that aren't human.
Do you have any idea what they wanted?
No.
Did you get a sense that they were threatening you?
It's very clinical. They don't have really empathy or sympathy. It's often like us going into the wild and tranking a lion or a wild beast, tagging it, looking it over, and then letting it go. We don't really have a true connection to this animal. Mm-hmm. We don't really care about it. We're just examining it, and that's what I get from this. There's no malice involved.
Believe it or not, it gets weirder. Or as Mark put it...
This is going to push this whole thing into Wackyville.
Okay. Let's go to Wackyville.
All right.
See how we do there.
Okay.
In Wackyville, the Greys take Mark to an exam room in their spacecraft and hand him a fetus.
Do you have any idea what they wanted when they gave you the fetus?
No. But that's part of my original thought process, is that eventually those hybrids, as we call them, are going to populate the planet. It's a pretty frightening picture, but if you look at it logically, it makes all the sense in the world.
Hybrids? Hey, Bud, you there? That's kind of off the wall.
The whole thing is off the wall.
Now, we did talk to a psychiatrist who has studied this issue, and he says there are some less off-the-wall psychological explanations, Carol. One that is mentioned most is sleep paralysis. It happens when you're nodding off or waking up. Your body is sleeping and thus paralyzed. Your mind is still conscious, and oftentimes you'll experience hallucinations then. But Bud makes a very key counterpoint here. Most of the abductees he talks to were not sleeping when they had their close encounter. So go figure.
How does he really know?
Well, you don't, you know, he's talked to hundreds of these people, okay. 700 of them.
But they say they weren't sleeping, but...
Well, I mean, at a certain point, I guess you could doubt the whole thing.
I know, I'm just being cynical.
You're obviously in the deep skeptic column
the
here.
Deep skeptic column. But I'm looking at all of these drawings, and it is fascinating that they were done by different people, and they all look very similar.
Yeah, they do. And what's even more interesting is these are old drawings, 25 years old or so, before they were, you know, the Roswell T-shirts became so common. And there is this similarity here. Now, this is, when you talk to witnesses and you hear these stories about aliens, this figure, this kind of big-headed, almond-eyed, tiny-mouthed space creature, whatever you want to call it, really goes back all the way to the Roswell incident. So, you know, has that been planted in their head psychologically? Or are they seeing these in a genuine way? And
I wonder why people came up with this image anyway. I mean, if it is a psychological problem, like, why this figure?
Well, you know, a lot of people say, well, why does it look so humanoid? You know, are we, you know, reflecting our own image? But there actually is an evolutionary explanation. You know, if life did evolve somewhere else on another planet, it stands to reason, if the planet is a lot like ours, that evolution would create at least similar creatures. You know, stereoscopic vision, ears there, head up there, all that kind of thing might happen in an evolutionary thing. So there is a scientific reason that they might sort of look like humans. There you have it. Submitted for your approval.
It's fascinating. It
or
really
disapproval.
Is. I know, but it's fascinating regardless. Coming up tomorrow.
We're listening for something that we don't think can be produced by Mother Nature.
We'll meet a woman who spent 3 decades searching the solar system, waiting for word from aliens. She just got a big boost from a billionaire investor. Hey, it just might be a safer bet than stocks, right? And this lady is so convinced they're out there, she's got the bubbly on hand. And have you seen something funny in the sky? Are you convinced that aliens exist, or do you just think it's science fiction? We want to know. Send us your pictures and video at CNN.com/AM. Just click on the iReport link. We'll check out a couple of them in the next hour.